New Andor just dropped, and it's the boiling point that we've been waiting for all season. Right Sons, everybody, Batuuboii here, and welcome to another review video for Andor Season 2. If you've been following along with the show in full Andor fashion, it has been a very, very slow burn that the series has essentially been known for. It takes its time building up this story and these characters and the situation that they're in. It's a little difficult with all the time jumps and the 3-episode releases, but I think that this week's release has been so well worth the wait. With all the situations happening on Ghorman and just all the espionage boiling up to this point with this 3-episode arc, which takes place 2 years before the Battle of Yavin, which is funny because with the start of episode 7 entitled Messenger, it's where we begin. On Yavin, it's still a bubbling but building rebel base, and we will know this as the rebel base from A New Hope. We see Ghorman just land there, and he meets up with Cassian and Bix, who are living in this super bougie jungle treehouse. I love the set design here, as he brings them a message from Luthen, who we can assume at this point they have not really been in contact with a lot. I feel that Cassian is trying to separate himself from the rebellion to live a quieter life with Bix, but he presents to them a mission that they essentially cannot refuse with an assassination attempt on Dedra, on Ghorman. When we land on Ghorman, we see that tensions have continued to rise in terms of rebel activity and Imperial retaliation. As security is heightened, there's more stormtroopers, there's more officers, there's barriers all over the plaza. Nobody can get into the plaza at this point, except media, as we see on-location journalists telling the story of what's happening on Ghorman to the galaxy. While there, we also get some more Dedra. She begins to talk with Patagraz about what the Empire's next moves are. Patagraz insists that the Empire has been patient for far too long over the 2 years that Dedra has occupied Ghorman, and that they are ready to begin mining the planet for Calcite. This has since been rumored around the planet, never really confirmed, but now there's more evidence, more insight as to what the Empire is doing. People are getting absolutely pissed, to the point now that even Cyril is getting upset, as he feels that Dedra is not being 100% honest with him as to the reasoning of why they're there on Ghorman in the first place, but she keeps insisting that there will be a reckoning and that they will return to Coruscant and live out their lives rewarded. Cassian and Wilmon begin to scout out the plaza, as Cassian is undercover as a journalist. Wilmon is there in secret to meet with the rebel front on Ghorman, and as Cassian checks into the hotel, he seems to recognize the agent that's checking him in as the bellman who assisted him with his luggage in the previous arc. His father died during the Tarkin massacre when a ship landed on him and about 500 other patrons. But now he's working the front desk. Cassian is under another alias, but he catches on to that, but plays along with it and keeps it a secret, as he does believe in Cassian's cause. This episode ends with Cassian scouting out his hotel room with an arsenal of weapons. It's a very, honestly, just shocking image. We see him prep for that, and that's where this episode ends, leading into episode 8, Who Are You? It's here that we see the Gors finally going out to the plaza, as they've heard news that the Imperials have opened it up and set up blockades for the Ghorman people to be able to go out there and protest, and they come in droves, as it's just people after people filling up the plaza. They're climbing up onto the monument. It's just this beautiful imagery, just very reminiscent of the French Revolution. All of these flags, all of these chants, just all of these songs that they're singing. I mean, up until this point, Ghorman has been a pretty much just spot on representation of the rebellious nature of France. The buildings look Parisian. The Ghorman language sounds very, very French. It's just such beautiful imagery. They continue to sing and protest their thoughts against the Empire's taking of their planet. After a conversation with Carol Reislin, he realizes that the Empire have been setting up machines around the planet to mine the calcite inside of it. While there, Cyril actually makes it to Daedra. He confronts Daedra and chokes the crap out of her, trying to get an answer out, and she does provide it. And obviously he's upset that she's essentially been lying to him over the past 2 years, so he leaves and jumps into the crowd before the climax of this protest reaches. Daedra is given orders by Partagaz to proceed with the plan at hand. She says proceed, and a new Imperial officer named Kaido, who we got introduced to in the last episode, who's brought an enforcement team to assist with keeping the Gors in check, gives the order to fire at will, and we cut to a sniper in a remote location firing off at one of the Imperial officers in the crowd, making it seem like the rebels shot off, and this incites a giant genocide. They begin by just shooting a protester off of the monument, and everybody just starts blasting at each other. As we look around, every single exit is either blocked off by stormtroopers or officers as they're firing into the crowd. Tensions begin to rise as now explosives are involved. We even see that front desk agent from the hotel ignite one of the thermal detonators and blow up the hotel. It's also during this massacre that we see the Empire introduce their new enforcers, the KX droids, as we know and love as K2SO, but there's a lot of them, and they are just Terminator level threats. They're walking through the streets. They actually take Carol's daughter and throw her across the plaza, killing her. And it's just, it's cold-blooded. Like, I don't think we really saw this level of threat from these KX droids since Jedi Fallen Order. When you obviously fight against them, they don't really talk. They're just there to perform their duties and just maintain order, and it is cold. During the massacre, we also see Cassian trying to get a shot off on Daedra, and it looks like he does finally have a clear shot at her before he's taken down by Cyril. This fight ensues, and it's a pretty dang good one. Choreographed very well. They seem to both have an edge on each other, but in the end, Cyril is able to get Cassian pinned down with his rifle. Cassian asks, "Who are you?" And Cyril hesitates killing Cassian, but it's not enough time as Cyril gets shot in the head by Carol Reislin. It's just a very shocking loss, as we've seen Cyril kind of be this middle ground. Obviously, he's involved with Daedra romantically, but I don't ever really think that he was 100% into what the Empire was selling, especially now with this going on Ghorman and the revelations that he's found out about and his involvement with the Ghorman front. So it was just a really sad loss in the Andor story. We do get a scene of Daedra in a room just crying and shaking, hyperventilating, but like still trying to maintain herself as an officer, just keep it together. It's here we see Cassian and Wilmon start making their escape, as they're also chased by a KX droid that is throwing people against walls. He's throwing them all over the place. They love throwing things. Obviously, blaster fire does not work on these droids. The blasts are just bouncing off of this droid before a truck comes in and splits this droid in half, killing it. And before they leave, Cassian asks Wilmon to get these parts on his ship for him to use. So that's a really nice connection. I love how they didn't make it this sort of like buddy moment of K2 and Cassian meeting, because it's such a great relationship. I think that this introduction was done very well. As the episode ends, we see Cassian driving away to find transport off planet, and he's just sobbing. And I mean, I'm there sobbing with him too. It's very emotional. I think that this is probably some of the best of Andor that we have seen so far. I mean, even topping like the season 1 finale. It was just absolutely gut-wrenching to watch, but incredible. And it's written so well as we see Cassian drive off, hearing the radio cries of the rebellion, crying out for anybody as the body count just piles up minute after minute as they're being murdered in the streets. It's just absolutely disgusting. And what's even more disgusting is at the end of the episode, we see that the news outlets are spinning this as an Imperial massacre as they mourn the losses of Imperial martyrs, and it is just absolutely awful stuff. This is honestly one of the best episodes of Star Wars that I have ever seen. It is so action-packed, but the action doesn't feel campy. It just feels real and grounded, which I've always loved about Andor. The day that you can make a space opera dramatic and grounded and make it sort of feel almost documentarian, you know you're doing something right. The last episode we see is Episode 9, Welcome to the Rebellion. A little bit less action-packed than Who Are You, obviously, but this one, it's a lot more impactful as this episode focuses on Mon Mothma, who is reacting to the Ghorman massacre and insists that she will be making a speech against the Empire, because up until this point, the Senate is pretty much just Emperor Palpatine's puppet. They are just going to stick with him the entire time, but she is not having it. And it's here that she is supported by Senator Organa making a return, who we kind of saw earlier on in the first 3-episode arc, but very briefly. And obviously, this is not Jimmy Smits. You could chalk it up to like maybe he's getting older, but we just saw him in Obi-Wan playing the exact same role that now Senator Organa has been recasted by Benjamin Bratt of Coco fame, Law and Order. He's been in a lot of things, and it's a very recognizable face that I saw instantly. Like, I don't see him as Senator Organa, I see him as Benjamin Bratt. I'm still not really sure as to why they recasted him, but honestly, I think Benjamin Bratt does a very good job playing the senator here. He's still kind of maintaining that persona that he is a member of the Senate, like a very high senior member of the Senate, but he still sides with Mon Mothma on the side of rebellion, even planning an escape for her after she finishes her speech during an emergency session of Senate the next day. And obviously, you can trust Bail Organa. He has such a pivotal role in the spark and birth of the rebellion. He asks Mothma to scan her office for listening devices, which they find. She subsequently destroys it. We get this little sub-arc of the Imperial Communications Office trying to figure out why the signal went out, why it was destroyed, and that comes hand in hand with what we see later on in the episode. We also see that Luthen is also trying to plan an escape route for Mon Mothma in the form of Cassian, which he insists that after this mission is over, he is done. He does not want any part of the rebellion. We don't really get a reason as to why, but we can assume that one, he just does not really side with Luthen, which I don't really side with Luthen. He's more the extremist side of like Saw Gerrera. It's kind of like the very extreme rebellion, and they don't really kind of fall in line with like the rebellion that we're known for on Yavin. He doesn't think that Mon Mothma should even go to Yavin with Bail's team, as he thinks that there is someone bad in their team. So we start to see that kind of disconnect very clear in this episode. Luthen meets with Mon Mothma in the Senate building, letting her know the secret code word that his escort will be using, saying, "I have friends everywhere," which is obviously the call sign for Cassian Andor. The next day is speech day, and this is where the climax of this episode begins, as we see both teams of Bail Organa and Cassian going their separate ways into trying to get to Mon Mothma to escort her after her speech. They start making their way up there, and Mon Mothma begins her speech, and it is powerful. The entire time, she's just dancing this dance with giving her praise to the Senate that she's been a part of her entire life, but also leading into her rebellious portion of the speech, where she says just some powerful, powerful lines like, "The death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil," and ending it with, "The monster who is screaming the loudest, the one who will come for all of us, is Emperor Palpatine." And as soon as she says that, they're able to cut communications off and shut off her speech, and this is where the escape mission begins. Her pod comes back. Right outside her door is Cassian, as he begins to escort her out, revealing his code phrase, "I have friends everywhere," and so she knows that this is Luthen's guy. He begins trying to escort her through. They meet up with Bail Organa's escort crew, and one of them ends up being a mole for the Empire, who pulls out a weapon in a crowded room, and Cassian makes very short work of that and just shoots her immediately. Mon Mothma is obviously very distraught. Andor just replies, "Welcome to the rebellion." And it's such a great turning point, as, you know, for Mon Mothma, she's kind of always taken a back seat and has been kind of like the hand of the puppet of the rebellion, but now she is in it. She is in the thick of it, as we will come to see her do that more often in Rogue One and obviously in Return of the Jedi. And it's such such a nice turning point. They're able to finally escape the Senate building. They get in a car and they go to Cassian's apartment, where she will be escorted by the actual rebellion in Gold Squadron. So it's a nice call to that legendary X-Wing squadron. Cassian returns home to Bix. He tells her that he is done with the rebellion. He wants to go and move off world with her and just go somewhere quiet and be at peace. And Bix isn't really saying much at this point. She's kind of just being silent. The next morning, we see that Cassian wakes up in an empty bed and a message to him from Bix. Bix essentially lets him know that she does not want to be the reason for him leaving the rebellion, so she is leaving to an undisclosed location, that she will find him after the rebellion has won. So it's very sad. I mean, he's been very loyal to Bix, but we knew this was coming. I thought it was going to be that she ends up dying or that she turns or something, but there was going to be a sort of separation from this love interest as he sort of becomes interested in Jyn Erso at the very end of Rogue One. It's also here that we end the episode firing up this KX droid and them not knowing what the result of this is going to be. Cassian points a blaster at the droid. The KX droid comes to life and begins speaking to them, saying hello, and I don't know what I've done to offend you, but I would suggest you point that somewhere else. We finally get it. K2SO is in Andor, my favorite droid literally ever. I just can't wait to see what's next. Let me know what you think down in the comments. What did you think of this 3-episode arc, and where do you think the show is going to go from here? Just always know, until next time, till the spire, my friends.